When a man sends a message that instantly lowers your sense of value, it's not just a random moment or a careless slip of the tongue. It's a direct reflection of how he truly views emotional connection and what he believes he can get away with in your life. A man's words are tiny windows into his standards long before his actions catch up, and those subtle cues tell you whether he sees you as a priority or an option. When he chooses language that dismisses your feelings, minimizes your needs, or suggests you're asking for something unreasonable, he's revealing that he doesn't intend to meet you at the level of respect and clarity you deserve. You don't need to wait to see how things play out. Those words already show you the roadmap of the relationship. A man who values you will choose communication that builds security. A man who doesn't will choose communication that creates confusion. And confusion is never accidental. There are men who use their messages like tools, not to connect with you, but to manage your expectations so they can maintain minimal effort while still keeping access to you. When a man sends something that instantly makes you feel small or uncertain, he's telling you exactly where he plans to place the bar, and it's almost always lower than you deserve. The truth is that men know the impact their words have. They know when something sounds dismissive, hurtful, or cold, and they send it anyway because it helps them maintain control without offering real commitment. When he chooses words that make you question your worth, he's not unaware, he's uninvested. A man who respects you chooses clarity even when it's difficult. A man who doesn't chooses convenience even when it hurts you. And the moment his message shifts your energy, trust that shift. It's telling you everything your heart has been trying to ignore. Sometimes a message lands in a way that makes your stomach drop, and you instantly feel the emotional distance widening, even if the words seem simple on the surface. That's because disrespect doesn't always sound loud, aggressive, or dramatic. Often it's wrapped in subtle phrasing, a dismissive tone, or a careless reply that shrinks your sense of importance. When a man uses his words to create emotional imbalance, you start questioning whether your needs are too much, whether your feelings are valid, whether you should pull back to avoid pushing him away. But that self-doubt doesn't come from you. It comes from the emotional environment he's creating. Healthy communication lifts your confidence. Unhealthy communication erodes it. And if one message can make you question the entire dynamic, that alone reveals the fragility of his intentions. You deserve someone whose words bring clarity, not chaos. You deserve someone who speaks to you like you matter. A man who is serious about you never sends words that make you second guess your value or your place in his life, because he understands that connection is not built through charm alone, but through consistency and conscious communication. He knows that the way he texts you reflects the way he treats you, and he chooses his language with intention, not laziness. When a man sends something that makes you feel undervalued, it's not a one-time oversight. It's a preview of his emotional maturity. You're not too sensitive for recognizing disrespect. You're emotionally intelligent enough to feel when something is off. A man who truly wants you will never risk losing you through careless communication. But a man who doesn't care enough will do just that. And the moment his words expose his mindset, the most powerful thing you can do is honor what those words reveal about who he is. When a man sends a message that suddenly lowers the expectations you have for the relationship, he is not being honest or transparent. In the way he might claim, he is strategically resetting the bar so he can give you less while still keeping you emotionally available to him. Men who do this know exactly what they're doing because reducing your expectations reduces their responsibility. If he texts something that sounds like he's preparing you to accept inconsistency, distance, or minimal effort, it's because he wants the benefits of your presence without the obligations of a real connection. These messages are never innocent. They are attempts to condition you into believing that wanting clarity makes you demanding, that wanting consistency makes you needy, and that wanting genuine effort makes you unrealistic. The moment he shifts the narrative this way, he's telling you he has no plans to rise to the level of your emotional investment. He wants you to adjust downward. A man who lowers your expectations is a man who wants comfort without contribution, and he uses carefully crafted phrases to make you feel guilty for asking for what every healthy relationship requires. He may say something that sounds humble or vulnerable, but the intention behind it is to excuse his lack of effort before you can call it out. He wants to build a relationship where the emotional labor falls on you, where the communication effort comes from you, and where the stability of the connection depends on your patience, rather than his participation. When he sends those 7 words that shift the tone, he is revealing that he wants to stay exactly where he is while hoping you will shrink your needs to match his comfort zone. A healthy man raises his effort to meet your standards. A low-effort man lowers your standards to match his excuses. And once he starts framing your expectations as too much, he's already preparing to invest less. What makes these messages so damaging is that they don't just aim to lower your expectations, they aim to lower your belief in what you deserve. When a man subtly suggests you should accept less, he's encouraging you to compromise your emotional needs, your time, and your dignity in ways you would never accept from anyone else. These messages become the foundation for a dynamic where you start tolerating inconsistency because he has convinced you it's normal. You stop asking for clarity because he calls it pressure. You stop expressing your needs because he frames them as burdens. Slowly, the relationship becomes one-sided, with you giving and him receiving, and every time he withdraws effort, you try harder. This is exactly the dynamic he wants, because it keeps you emotionally invested while requiring nothing from him. Lowering your expectations is not a sign of his honesty. It's a sign of his unwillingness to grow. A man who lowers expectations early reveals a deeper truth. He is not afraid of losing you because he believes you'll settle for whatever he offers. But a woman who knows her worth doesn't negotiate her standards with someone who's trying to avoid responsibility. She recognizes that when a man sends a message designed to limit what she can ask for, he is also limiting how deeply he is willing to show up. He wants attention without accountability, affection without effort, and connection without commitment. These messages are not warnings of what he can't do. They are confirmations of what he has no intention of doing. And once he frames the relationship around minimal responsibility, everything that follows becomes a pattern of excuses, distance, and emotional presence that leaves you feeling increasingly unseen. His words create the ceiling for the relationship, and if that ceiling is low, it will remain low no matter how much you hope it will change. A man who is serious about you communicates in a way that brings clarity, not confusion, and he does this because he understands that consistency is the foundation of trust. But a man who wants access to you without commitment uses his words differently. He uses them to keep you close enough to benefit him, but far enough that he never has to define anything. When he sends those 7 vague, manipulative, or emotionally evasive words, He is intentionally creating uncertainty because uncertainty keeps you trying. Confusion becomes the environment where he maintains control, because as long as you're unsure of where you stand, you continue giving him emotional energy, attention, and availability. Mixed signals are not a sign that he's complicated. They're a sign that he's comfortable with you feeling unsettled. A man who values clarity gives it freely. A man who wants control limits clarity so he can come and go as he pleases. Confusing communication is never accidental when it comes from a man who benefits from your emotional investment without offering anything substantial in return. These men use vague statements, half answers, and carefully worded messages because anything too direct would either require commitment or risk losing the comfort of your presence. So they keep everything blurry enough that you're always interpreting, overthinking, analyzing, and searching for meaning between the lines. This emotional guessing game drains you, but it serves him because it keeps you focused on him instead of your own needs. And when he senses that you're becoming frustrated, he will throw in just enough sweetness, just enough interest, or just enough affection to reset your hope. This cycle keeps you emotionally tied to someone who has no intention of offering more. Confusion is the leash he uses to keep you within reach without ever stepping up. A man who genuinely wants you does not risk losing you through unclear communication because he knows that mixed signals lose good women. He doesn't send messages that leave you questioning whether he cares, whether he respects you, or whether he sees you in his future. Instead, he communicates with intention because he's not afraid of clarity. But a man who only wants access to your time, your body, your emotional support, will always avoid clarity because clarity creates expectations. If he tells you exactly what he wants, he either loses the benefits of your presence or must rise to the standard you deserve. So instead, he chooses ambiguity. He chooses words that sound caring but mean nothing. He chooses messages that keep you emotionally hooked but practically stuck. And every time he senses you pulling away, he will send a perfectly timed message to pull you back in. Not because he wants you, because he wants the advantages of having you. When a message leaves you feeling mentally exhausted, emotionally unsure, or constantly questioning your own intuition, that is the clearest sign that the connection is not aligned with your worth. Confusion is not chemistry. Uncertainty is not attraction. Mixed signals are not passion. These are signs that someone is benefiting from your emotional openness without offering emotional reliability in return. A healthy relationship feels grounding, not destabilizing. It feels steady, not chaotic. It feels like a place where your mind can rest, not run in circles. If one message from him can flip your emotions, disrupt your peace, or shift your confidence, that's not love trying to grow. That's your intuition trying to warn you. A man who wants a future with you never uses confusion as a communication style. But a man who wants temporary access will rely on it every time, because confusion keeps him in your life without requiring him to show up in the way you truly deserve. A man who truly values you never communicates in a way that makes you question your worth or your place in his life, because he understands that emotional safety is created through consistency, respect, and clarity. When a man is serious, his words reflect that seriousness. He doesn't rely on dismissive phrases, vague messages, or those 7 careless words that suddenly shift the entire energy of connection. The right man knows that communication is not just about talking. It's about honoring the bond he's building with you. He knows that the smallest message can impact your heart, your confidence, and your sense of stability, so he chooses his words with intention. But the wrong man reveals himself the moment he sends something that feels cold, minimizing, or disrespectful. Words don't lie, tone doesn't lie, and your intuition never lies when it senses that something in the message is off. There's a sharp difference between a man who is emotionally available and one who is emotionally convenient, and you can feel the difference instantly in the way they communicate. The man who is convenient sends messages that keep you guessing because guessing keeps you emotionally hooked. But the man who is available communicates in a way that makes you feel secure without having to chase clarity. When the wrong man sends those words that instantly create doubt, it's because he is not investing at the depth that you are, and he doesn't feel the need to protect your heart. If he cared deeply, he would avoid speaking in ways that create uncertainty or emotional distance. Instead, he would communicate with presence, not passivity. When his words disrupt your peace rather than support it, that is the moment you see the truth he hoped you would ignore. Clarity is the language of someone who wants you. Confusion is the language of someone who doesn't. A woman's intuition always picks up on subtle shifts long before her mind has fully processed what's happening, especially when it comes to the tone and intent behind a man's communication. You can feel when the message isn't coming from a place of care, respect, or genuine interest, even if the words look harmless on the surface. Your intuition notices the emotional temperature, the sudden change in consistency, the lack of effort that used to be there. The right man doesn't trigger that uneasy feeling because he wants you to feel grounded in the connection, not spiraling through uncertainty. The wrong man, however, often sends messages that force you into emotional self-defense, making you question whether you imagined the connection entirely. But your intuition is your greatest ally, and when his words make your heart tighten rather than relax, that's not attachment speaking, that's awareness rising. The right man understands that his communication carries weight, not because you're overly sensitive, but because you're emotionally invested, and he honors that investment by making sure his words match his intentions. He doesn't play with your emotions or send messages that feel dismissive, careless, or disrespectful, because he knows real connection requires emotional responsibility. When the wrong man reveals his true intentions through a single message, it's not your job to rationalize it, minimize it, or rewrite it into something softer than what it is. You are not meant to carry the burden of making excuses for someone who won't carry the weight of communicating with care. The right man will never make you compete for reassurance, clarity, or respect. And when the wrong man shows you through his words that he cannot provide those things, the most powerful thing you can do is trust what the message revealed and protect your heart accordingly.